Hi, I'm Tracey L. Fisher. This is a Reentry Point of View, and I'm here with my guest, Mr. Tariq Shabazz in the building. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, brother. How are you, man?
Man, I'm great, man. Listen, I'm like you like me, man. We like to get right to it.
Why don't we?
Listen, man, my audience been craving for you, and that's real rap. Yo, when you gonna have Tariq on there? You done had everybody else on there. Conflict of schedules, but we good now.
Right.
We here. Tell them why you running for DA.
Well, I think that it's become quite clear, abundantly clear, over the last, I think, 6 or so weeks in which people have been running for this office, that people's agendas are their agendas. It's not the agenda of the community. It's not the concern of the community. It's not the concern of the people of Philadelphia. Clearly it isn't. And it definitely isn't that of the marginalized people. It's not of the black and brown people. It's not of the poor economic people. It's not of the undereducated. It's not of the underclass. It is of those individuals that, one, who thinks he's the savior, and others that want to do what they really want to do that I think supports their interest group. Well, I bring a different quality, I submit. The quality that I bring is approximately 30 years of experience in the area of criminal justice. 5 years as an assistant district attorney, and in my early stages I was a rape prosecutor. And then 2.5 decades, if you will, of defense work. All up and down the East Coast, from as far as Roanoke, Virginia, south, if you want to call it that, to north to Boston, Massachusetts, and all throughout the several counties. A lot of counties in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So this experience I bring the experience of litigation. I bring the experience that's more unique than anyone else in this race. And it's not the unique of race that is the ethnicity, but it's the experience of living a particular life. I grew up, born and raised in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn, New York, in Brevoort Houses. And Brevoort Houses is no different than Richard Allen. It's a project, and I grew up there. So I didn't have to protest with ACT UP, or have Michael Cord give me a stamp, and I don't know if Michael Cord give anybody a stamp. If we talk to the audience that are in state institutions, they don't even know who the hell Michael Cord is, because he don't represent them. But I didn't have to get anyone to declare that I understood what Black Lives Matter. You know, I'm black, my life matters, my son, my brother, my sister, my mother, my children, my wife, all of them, my daughters, they're black and their lives matter. And so Black Lives Matter, as one of the candidates like to trout all the time, is something that he needs for legitimacy. It's not something that I need for legitimacy. You see, because I was stopped and frisked, so I understand that feeling. My son has been stopped and frisked, so I understand that feeling. I have been slow at it on occasions, running away from police officers, and had to suffer the wrath of their justice if you run from them. So I've been beaten. So I understand that. Now, I've represented people for free, but it wasn't because they were protesters. It was because they were charged with serious felonies, some as serious as homicides, but they were represented for free for a various number of reasons. We know what the community is about because for 15 to almost 20 years of my experience in being in Philadelphia, I've worked with youth in various capacities. I've coached football in North Philadelphia for the Blackhawks and Mount Airy for the Bantams for almost 16, 17 years. Coached football at Del Valle. Well, people say, well, that's coaching a sport. No, it's not just coaching a sport, it's mentoring kids. What does that mean? That meant that I dealt with them with their academics. I went up to their school when in fact they were in trouble or suspended or had some issues with their teacher. I went to their home when they disrespected their grandmother. We taught them how to work together as a team, and there's no better way to show that than in football. And it's important that on May 16th, we work together as a team and we make sure that some billionaire doesn't come in here and tell us that someone's ice is cola and he is the savior for our community. He is the savior for this city. And we allow that to happen often because green, unfortunately, is the color that people look at. That is, you give somebody $2,000, they'll try to gather as many people to vote for somebody who doesn't have their interests at heart as opposed to somebody who does. So there's a certain experience I bring with respect to that, not just in the law, but in life, which is different than my opponents. Secondly, I've already begun to do things in that office that are beneficial. What are those things? Well, from my visits at Gratisford, from talking with the individuals there at Real Street Talk, they had a plan together where they were pushing what is called generally as second chance legislation, but inside that they had diversionary programs. And I took a look at those programs and in fact helped them with their second chance legislation. Let me say that part again. See, I wasn't protesting on the street. I was in Gratisford helping the brothers in Gratisford with their second chance legislation. It's not fiction, that's fact. And putting together what I thought was the most appropriate legislation. Now, that's a fancy term because you say appropriate. Well, what does that mean? Any other legislation is not appropriate? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there were very aggressive, very progressive, and very general terms that they had in terms of desires for second chance legislation. We took a look at that, and then we pinpointed those particular items and issues that we thought, and that I thought, based on my experience, would be able to get passed, and get passed relatively quickly, and will be able to be implemented. And then there was some that were longer term. So they began to focus on those. And then I began to focus on some of their reentry programs and some of their diversion programs. In fact, it was someone in Gratisford, in the Real Street Talk team, that came up with a pre-arrest diversion programs for juveniles. And that pre-arrest diversion program, I think, is right on time, because what it does is it allows us to deal with someone who made a bad decision, but not a bad person, or had a bad day, but is not a bad person, and put that person in a place where they can have restorative justice, or where they can have community service, or where they can actually deal with issues that they may face in their life and have counseling that can deal with those issues. And if they complete that program, then they don't even have an arrest, not processing. So we don't need to expunge anything because there's nothing to expunge.
Absolutely.
Some of the problems I have with diversion programs is that you have to get arrested first. And then you processed. And then you have a case. And then that case is thrown out or non-prossed, and we say that the record is sealed or expunged. But then when you go to get a job, in the high-tech society that we live in now, somebody punches something up, and that so-called sealed or expunged record does come up. And if it comes up, now you have a black mark, and you may not get that job.
Right.
Well, pre-diversion programs, which are pre-arrest programs, prevent you from even having a black mark. So we need to deal with that aspect. We also have people in this race that are talking about mass incarceration and all the things they want to do, and we have somebody that goes so far to the left that he sounds like he want to just open the prisons and let everyone out. And then you got some people that are saying they're against mass incarceration now because they know that's what people want to hear.
Right.
But they have no intention on even dealing with the issue. But then you have me, I submit to you, who are talking about, okay, we can begin to deal with the mass incarceration system for two ends. One, stop putting so many people in jail. That means that there are cases that people don't need to be prosecuted for or arrested for, but there are issues that need to be dealt with. We do it, so we stop bringing people in, especially if they're not involved in things that would require them to go to jail and sit in jail to the end of that. But the other thing is, what are the reentry programs we have? And you and I have talked about this.
Absolutely.
And the reentry programs have to be in existence. We're talking about letting people out. What are we letting them out to? Do we have the services that are necessary for them to be successful in their reentry?
Absolutely.
I mean, we have drug and alcohol problems, some. But how about mental health counseling programs? Do we have those? How about housing programs? Do we have those? How about job training and education programs? Do we have those? How about having individuals come together with other individuals who are reentry, like a Tracey and other people, who can tell them exactly what they will experience, be there with them, walk with them, so that we don't put them in the same condition that they were in prior to going to jail.
That's right.
And if we're not in that condition, recidivism is lessened. So we don't want to just let people out. We want to let them come home, and we want them to be successful. Some people have been in jail that they've lost their family. Yep. So these people have to re-enter. They have to be in a situation where they are re-indoctrinated, if you will, to what society is now as opposed to what it was when they were arrested. Who's talking about those programs, and how are they going to bring it about? I'm talking about those programs, and this is how we're going to bring them about. We're going to work with people like Tracey and other community organizations that are in there, in the community already, and they're working on shoestring budgets. It's based upon people donating money to them. They don't have any funding, any financing at all. But they are successful programs, and they are programs made up of the people who understand the problem that people are facing. Who understands reentry better than someone who had to reenter? who understands drug and alcohol better than someone who was addicted to drugs or alcohol, who understands living in a community in the projects or in certain areas and having to avoid the pitfalls of those areas other than someone who grew up in those areas. None of these guys have. None of them running. The only time they see in Southwest Philadelphia is to go to a candidates forum. Never been there before. In fact, when they go there, they're scared to death. If you ask them to name places in North Philadelphia, they couldn't tell you, other than where they represented someone.
Right.
You know, all the protests occur in Center City. They don't occur in our hood.
Right.
They don't occur where we are. So what we have to do is get to the people who know, who are trained, who we can trust, and we can begin to fund and finance those as part of the district attorney's office, as part of a diversion program. We can work together with the chief defender, Keir Bradford Gray, and work together with city council and those individuals on the Criminal Justice Reform Committee, in which I've been a part of for the last year and a half, and work with Council President Darrell Clark and the mayor to try to get money and use and funnel that money towards those organizations that will assist in reentry. See, folks, it's not about reentry. See, we're talking about that. It's not about just letting people out of jail. It's about once we let them out of jail, what are we allowing them to reenter into? And what are we giving them so that they don't turn to things that are not legal, that are incorrect, that they left behind based upon them changing and turning over a new leaf. And we don't talk about that at all. We play games with this. You know, some people go back to jail, and you can tell it better than I, Tracey,
right,
because they couldn't cope with being out here.
Absolutely. It's
not because they want to be criminals, but it was easier for them in there than it is out here, because it's not as easy out here. So sometimes they go and they don't have any help. They become frustrated. So we can't talk about just ending mass incarceration and not building a network as a community around the people that we're inviting back into the community, that are coming back. No one talks about that. And I'm not just talking about it, I'm telling you what we can do for it. We can even do it better, assist better in the DA's office. There are programs in the DA's office that are not successful, that are diversion programs. Take some of the money that is in those programs and again, invest in community, invest in the people. We talked about civil forfeiture, and everybody's on this civil forfeiture bandwagon, all of them. And it's true, civil forfeiture is whack. And I can come up with a more articulate word, but I think whack captures it. So what we can do, as opposed to having any money retrieved legally, and I'm going to tell you what my position is on civil forfeiture, but let me just use this as an example as to how we can help with reentry. Any money retrieved, that money should be dictated back into, it can go to schools, there's no doubt, we need to put it in schools, but we also need to put it into reentry programs. This is criminal justice. See, some of us are confused about what we're running for. We're not running to become the ACLU. The ACLU exists. This is not a civil rights office. This is an office of criminal justice, equality, and fairness, where civil rights is a part of it. But also protection and safety is a part of that office as well. So we have to be balanced in our approach. If in fact you're concerned about people protesting, this is not the place for you. This is not the place for you. But if you're concerned about fairness, about balance, about people being treated fairly based upon the evidence or the lack of evidence, that people are not being prejudged based upon how they look or how low their pants sag, that office is reflective with diversity for the people that are representative of the community. That is, you have African Americans, you have Hispanics, more than two. You have Asians in there. You even have members of the LGBT community in there. You have people that represent the city and county of Philadelphia. And it's only those people through diversity that will be able to understand the problems that individual communities have. And that's the problem, Tracey. They don't deal with that. And they can't deal with it because they don't understand it. There's a difference between being sympathetic or empathetic. Sympathetic means, you know, you went through that and I feel bad for you because you went through that. Empathetic means I know how you feel because I went through it.
Absolutely.
And so I'm empathetic about a lot more than a lot of other people. And those experiences, I think, makes me well-rounded. There's no question about my understanding of the law. That's why they never talk about it. They'll talk about everything in the world when it comes to Tariq El Shabazz, but nothing as it relates to the law. There's no question about that. There's no question about my ability to run that office. I've been doing it for 6-7 months or so. And that 6 and 7 months, the police shooting protocol is new and improved now. You don't know about it because they never talked about it and we haven't had to apply it. But did you know that there's more transparency than ever existed in that office with respect to police shooting protocol? Do you know that according to the new shooting protocol that I in fact put together, that there are reporting periods in which you bring in the family member of the person who had been shot or may have been deceased, and you share with them where the investigation is going, and they can bring their attorney in. Did you know that within the conclusion of that report that we're going to make that investigation, we're going to make a report available so people can know? Now, if the person is charged, all we have to do is tell you we're charged and you can see their trial go. But if they're not charged, this is why they're not charged. This is the evidence that we've seen. This is what we've done. Here you have that. The only exceptions to that is the same exceptions that would apply with respect to any investigation. If there's information, personal information about a particular witness that can't be disclosed, it won't. I mean, that's the same thing that exists already under the law. That's nothing new. But it's a situation where you never had that before. Did you know in the new shooting protocol that as first assistant, I received a call whenever there was a police shooting occur, and I drove, no matter what time of day or night it was, there. And if I happened not to be in the city at the time, that there was a designee that went on my behalf. So right from the start, an assistant DA would be out there looking at what's going on and what's transpiring.
Wow.
And did you know that in part of that shooting protocol is that if there was a need to bring in an unbiased, independent, experienced prosecutor or investigator, we bring him in, and we welcome that, working together with the police department. See, these are things you never knew about, but you have somebody running around saying, well, what have people done? Well, I did that. Did you know that I even put in place the new Brady protocol? Now, Brady, for a lot of us, is a fancy legal term for saying giving you fair information about the police officers that arrest you. That is, if they have information in their jacket, in their file, that tends to show that they may not be truthful in certain cases, or that they may have been abusive in certain cases, or anything that tends to give information, credible information, to a jury or to a judge about that person's of the truth, etc., you're privy to it. And that should be given to you.
Wow.
That's something new and improved, but you didn't hear about that at all. You didn't hear about those type of things. Now, does that office have problems? Absolutely. It's a systemically racist office. But part of those things have to be dealt with from someone who understands the problem and has a solution to it. What is my solution? I talked about and have done dismantling hiring and recruitment the way that it is, and reinstituting and redeveloping a new program that goes specifically at the best and the brightest from all ethnic backgrounds, all sexual orientations, all countries of origins, and bringing them in as prosecutors. But in order to recruit African Americans coming out of law school, you got to give them something. That means you have to show them that in that office you can do things that are beneficial to people and to the community. What better place, if in fact you're interested in criminal justice, than to be a prosecutor where you can make the determination whether something is real or not real, chargeable or not chargeable, whether someone should get jailed or not jailed, or should they be arrested. Those decisions are made by prosecutors.
Wow.
So you have control of that, as opposed to when you're a defense attorney for 2.5 years, I had to go and convince people that you shouldn't prosecute that. Now I'm saying to you, put me in a position to make the determination whether they should be prosecuted or not. See, and this is nothing new for me, because the first 5 years of my legal career in Philadelphia, I was a DA. And I've thrown out cases when the officer was untrustworthy. During the time that I was an assistant DA in a DA's office for the first 5 years, that was the crack epidemic. So you would have officers that come in and said that somebody sold a vial of crack, and then they held it up in the light and they showed it and shit. Ain't nobody hold nothing up to the light. Now, I know that. I know that based on my experiences and my understanding of the community and how law enforcement works with our community.
Right.
So those cases, when people came to me like that, I looked at them with a screw face, and we know what the screw face is, and we threw the case out. In the middle of motions to suppress, if the case was clear to me that someone's rights were violated, I stopped the motion to suppress in the middle of it, as a DA, a young DA, and I threw the case out. Then I wrote a memo to the file, I threw it out, and this is why I threw it out. That's been my MO. There's nothing new with respect to me. Not at all. But I'm going to tell you this, and this is an important message. We can't allow someone who is a billionaire to come into Philadelphia and don't know a goddamn thing about Philadelphia. And I'm sorry, there's no better way to express it but to express it that way. Nothing about Philadelphia. He couldn't even tell you what North Philadelphia is other than tell you it's north on the map. He can't tell you anything about Southwest or West Philadelphia. He can't tell you the distinction between North and South Philadelphia in terms of the people, because there's a distinction. He can't tell us anything about Mount Airy. He probably can tell us about Chestnut Hill. But he can't tell us about the community, the vast community, like Frankfurt. He can't tell us anything about that. He can't tell us anything about Allegheny Avenue. He can't tell us the distinctions between certain blocks in South Philadelphia and other blocks in South Philadelphia. But he's going to go to somebody and say, I'm going to give you money. I'm going to sponsor you. I'm going to put you on radio and on television so you can become the DA. The time for us to stop allowing people to select our leaders is now. We can't allow them to select our leaders. And they're still trying to do it. And they're doing it with somebody masked as a protector of the downtrodden. Really? Let me ask you a question. You don't talk to me, and we don't talk in the barbershop about the protest that happened in City Hall outside Seth Williams' office or that DA's office. You know what we talk about in the barbershop? About how that 6-year-old was shot and how that 6-year-old should be protected and how the 6-year-old was caught in the crossfire and how the person that did that was a nut and how that person should be off the street. We talk about the police officer that comes to your car and searches your car without any probable cause just when you go into work. We talk about our grandmothers being afraid, or our mothers being afraid, or our wives being afraid to walk the streets. We talk about people being in jail that shouldn't be in jail and people that are in jail for too long. We talk about being fair. Where is the fairness? Where is the justice? Where's the equality? Where's the transparency? We talk about those in the barbershop. We don't talk about someone protesting at City Hall. We don't talk about someone occupying City Hall because we've already been occupied. We were occupied in our community by police officers and racist policing. So we don't have to go to City Hall to sleep on the floor to understand occupied Philadelphia. And I'm not taking anything away from those people that protest occupied or act up. I'm not taking anything from them. To each be their own. That is their lane. That civil right call is their lane. This is my lane because it affects everyone. And you want to take crime down? You start giving opportunities to African Americans, Hispanics, poor individuals, to Asians, to all those people that are marginalized. The only thing we ask for is opportunities. It was opportunities that allowed me to become a DA. It was opportunities that allowed me to become a lawyer. It's opportunities that allowed me to even go to college. There were opportunities to even allow me to even finish high school. Opportunities. I didn't ask for you to give me anything but the opportunity, and then you give us the opportunity, we'll make it our own. Look at you.
Absolutely.
Look at you. What you're blessed with is you were giving an opportunity after dealing with some controversy and some tragedy and some craziness in your life.
Absolutely.
And after being given that opportunity, you took the experiences from what you lived in and out of incarceration and then come and develop a program that will benefit everyone else. We were in a barbershop in West Philadelphia. And in the barbershop, I gave this little talk, and the brother said to me, that sounds good, but let me ask you a question. He said, the only programs that people were trying to give me were drug and alcohol programs and GED programs. He said, I had my diploma, and I wasn't on drug and alcohol. But I needed things to help me with employment. And not just any employment, but employment that allowed me to take care of myself and my family. I mean, listen, he wasn't working at McDonald's before he went in. So I don't think you can put him to McDonald's and say, I gave you an opportunity. Mm-hmm. But how about the unions? How about training individuals? Not to just be laborers, but to be electricians.
Absolutely.
To be plumbers.
Absolutely.
See, people are shut out of those aspects of the unions. 332 does a great job in bringing people in, but that's labor. We got some of the brightest minds that have been taken away from us in prison that can be electricians and plumbers. And they go through the programs, but they don't get the jobs. See, if you want to protest, you need to be talking about that stuff. See, that's what's real. So why am I running? Because I'm the only real candidate. Why am I running? Because I'm the only real solution. I can't do it by myself. I can only do it with the community's help. And I know the community that I need to help. And let me make everyone feel safe. I would be the DA for all Philadelphians. Because I understand that if, in fact, you deal with the root of the problem that exists in many of our communities, it will bring crime down. If you deal with the root of the problem, opportunity, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, police brutality, misjustice, injustice, no transparency, hidden agendas, buying elections, if you deal with those root of the problems, then we'll be able to uplift everyone. African Americans, Hispanic, the downtrodden, the marginalized, they don't benefit and society don't benefit. We all benefit when the least among us, or the people we least respect, they benefit. That's real. You know why it's easy to have this conversation, Tracy? Because I believe it. This is something I live. That's right. It's not a soundbite. If you listen, if you went to any forums, or in fact, you've seen them all, you will hear the same rhetoric. Well, why are you running? Well, you know my tragedy in my life, and well, I'm running because I did this. And you hear the same taglines over and over for 2 minutes. But when we ever begin to address it and have conversation, and honest conversation for some period of time, there's nothing. It's blank. They don't have anything to say because it ain't memorized now. See, it never was memorized for me. I lived it. It's stamped in my heart. This is what I've done. Is everybody in the world loving Tariq El Shabazz? No. People that hate, people that are angry, people that don't love me, absolutely. More people love me than not. And if I find someone who walks the face of the earth, some person now, I'm talking about right now in this race, that everybody love, I'm scared of him. Because some people love him because he's paying them. And some people love him because they have a hidden agenda. And some people love him because they're going to have a job. And some people love him because that's his family. And some people love him because they might love his position that he takes. But at the end of the day, it is an issue there. But you find someone who is real, who tells you the truth even when it doesn't taste good, who tells you you're wrong even when you think you're right, and who tells you you're right even when you are right and they are wrong, then that's the person you support. And I submit the only person that you can support like that is Tariq El Shabazz. People talk about me because I speak confidently. And they say, you speak confidently, you're angry. Never say that about somebody that's not African American. You speak confidently, you're arrogant. But and never say that about anybody that's not African American. But I'll tell you this, there's a person that's so pompous in this race. I did this, and this person supports me, and that person supports me. And nobody say nothing about that arrogance at all. As if he's the most intelligent person in the room, and nobody can solve any problem but him. Really? Let me say this to you. If for 40 years, 30 years, 20 years, I want to claim that I worked to solve certain problems and we still have the problem, then I didn't solve a damn thing.
Absolutely.
I just worked in it. So you can't claim that if somebody else is trying to solve the same problems you are, but in a different way, that they ain't trying to solve the problems, they part of the problem. It's just disingenuous. And let me say this to all of the people that are watching this. Politics is dirty. No doubt about it. There are people that spin stories, lie about stories, try to plant stories, anything they can, claw, pull, deceit. All of that is part of politics. But just because I'm in a race for a political position doesn't mean I'm part of that. Hell, what we always say, you can be born in the projects and from the projects, but that don't make you the projects.
Absolutely.
So the same thing applies here. It's kind of like they said to me, Trace, they said, well, you running, man? Maybe you should dye your beard black. Why? My beard has been this way since you've known me and since I've had gray hair. Why would I dye my beard black? Well, for the same reason that people say what people want to hear, because they just want to be elected. But see, this is me, unapologetically African American, unapologetically Muslim, and unapologetically just and balanced and equal. Unapologetically about that. Why should I change? I'll tell you a secret, and I'll end with this, man, because you allowed me to go on for a long time. If in fact someone had their beard this color, and they decided to run for a political office, and then the next time I seen them at a debate, they colored their hair black, I wouldn't trust them. Because what it says to me is that is a person that is willing to do anything to get elected. Not because they're the best person, but because they're willing to do anything. In order to really determine who is best for this position, we have to look past the obvious bull crap, the smoke screens, and we got to see the trees before the forest. We got to see the trees. And if you look that way, it is no question That we don't need to be far left or far right. We need to be balanced. We need to be talking about protection and security, but fairness and balance. We need to be talking about mass incarceration, ending it, but also putting some people in jail. We need to talk about no cash bail system, but also some people don't need to have non-cash bail. We got to be honest with one another. And honesty hurts. It really does. And I know that people are frustrated, and I know they're sick and tired of being sick and tired. But folks, this didn't get this way overnight. This system has been heading this way for years. And it's going to take years to change it. If you scrap it all and start again, it's still going to take years to change it. Don't let nobody sell you that pipe dream. It's a ship, not a boat. And a ship is big. So you can't whip the wheel and turn it like that. It's kind of like an SUV. An SUV is big. If you whip the wheel and try to make a sharp turn, you turn it on its edge, on its side, unless it's a Porsche and it's wide body.
Absolutely.
But a sports car, you whip that wheel with your finger and it turns automatically. We're not in a sports car, folks. We're in a large SUV. And we try to turn it too quick, it'll be on its side. This should not ever be a case in which we decide an election based upon someone spending money. Somebody who's never seen Philadelphia all of a sudden spending money on candidates all over the country.
Wow.
I'm a little concerned about that.
Absolutely.
You know, in fact, it seems to me that they have a God complex, that they think that they're the only one that can do what they do. Now, this is the same thing that the Republicans do. Like, let's not get it twisted. They ain't doing nothing different. None of them look like us, but they ain't doing nothing different. They always try to influence, and Massa used to do that too. Massa find him a good, person, and then he'll go get that person to go get another person. And he says, now you go sell that person. You go, Tracy, and sell my person to everybody else. And we got people trying to do that. But we got a lot of people that ain't allowing it to happen.
Yeah,
and I trust those
days
people.
over with.
So listen, May 16th is the Democratic primary. As we know, this is a Democratic stronghold, this city. And 99.9% of the time, the Democratic nominee becomes the DA. So that's why the primary is so important. One of the reasons. Second reason is we don't need to have nuts in the DA's office. But that means you have to come out and vote. That means you have to vote. Get up, get the crust out of your eyes, and vote early.
That's right.
Make sure you vote at lunchtime or you vote when you come home, before those polls close. See, they're counting on a low turnout. That's why people are trying to hit me over the head with stuff. Because they know that even in a low turnout, people that look like me are turning out in our areas. So they're coming in that areas trying to infiltrate. I'm for you. Now, you ain't for us. You never been for us. You for you. But see, I don't have any choice but to be for us. Because I'm us. At the end of the day, when I take this suit off and put jeans on, I look just like a lot of people in Philadelphia. Been pulled over before. Ask some of them candidates, have they ever been pulled over, huh? Been stopped and frisked before. Ask some of them candidates, do they even know what a stop and frisk look like? How many times they've been waved on and my car has been stopped? Let's be real. You gotta pull for 56 on the chart. Number 56 on the chart. Number 56 on the chart. Now, I'm only number 56 on the chart, and I'm right in the middle and right above the person that I need to be above. That's symbolic for something. 56 on the chart, number 1 in your heart. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. And with that, you have it straight from the gentleman himself. And with that being said, how can we get in touch with you?
It's simple. It's Tariq for Justice. Tariq FOR Justice. JUSTICE. It's that same tagline on Instagram, Facebook, email. What else do I have? Twitter. Cool. It's on all those things, the same tagline. Get in touch with me. I'd love to hear from you.
And thank you. There you have it.